let me ask you this question. If there was one thing, big or small, that you would like to see changed, what would it be? Now imagine if you managed to make that change. What would the world look like? What would your school look like? What would your home look like? You know what? Leadership is not about being smart or talented. It's actually about having a desire to make some real change that would benefit people. That's what true leaders do. And I can tell you from my journey, and I hope to share with you today, the challenges, the benefits, the rewards of going on this journey of youth leadership. But I can tell you, in all honesty, the key question as a youth leader is not how, where, when you did something, but why. Now, you know what? You and I, right here in Australia, are some of the luckiest people on earth. Because we have the opportunities, the freedom to make good on those desires, to do something about it. The job that I cherish as an immigration lawyer on a day-to-day basis is to help people in their journeys to call Australia home. It's really rewarding when it works out. But one thing that's common in all my clients is that before they do any visa application, they're required to read, sign up to, and understand what we call the Australian Values Statement. This is meant to be the statement that defines our country, what we expect every new migrant to live by. I'd like you guys to consider the words on the screen and think about them. It says that as a society, we value things like the respect for the freedom and dignity of the individual, respect for the rule of law, fairness, equality of opportunity, compassion for those in need. That's what our country is supposed to live by. As you consider the stories that you've heard today, and as you consider the stories that you're about to hear, I'd like you guys to keep these words in mind and analyze them against these words. Now, as Australian citizens and all of us here, we are not only had the opportunity to live by these values and get the benefits out of these values, but I think we actually have a responsibility to hold everyone accountable to those values, to defend them, to guard them, because that is what we say defines Australia. It's not just a bunch of nice-sounding words. It defines us. So do think about them. Do consider them. I was born, as I said before, in a place called Jaffna, the northern part of Sri Lanka. And it's a place not unlike many others in the world where, at the time that I was born, the country was in the middle of a civil conflict, which went on for 30 years. The whole conflict was brought upon because two ethnic groups fought against each other for dominance. And what it means to a child growing up in that environment is that the opportunities that you're given is determined by what cultural group you're born into. Unfortunately, that happens in many parts of the world. So when I moved to Australia as a 14-year-old, I was all of a sudden given these opportunities on a platter. I really wanted to do something to make sure that young people like me who come to Australia new and young people who are already living in Australia are able to understand the privileged position that we are in and actually take on and embrace these opportunities. I wanted to do something about it to further that. That's my why. The reason why I do what I do. The thing that keeps me coming back and keeps me focused on the goal every time things get hard. Now, I didn't know where to start. I had no idea where to start. So just after I finished year 12, a couple of months afterwards, I was invited to a youth forum, a little bit like this, but in a very, very mini version of it. Now, it could have just been a talk fest. But at the end of the day, what happened was a bunch of us, about 12 of us, decided, let's take these discussions further. Let's kind of take this into our own hands. Let's not wait for the government to do something about it or somebody else to do something about it. If we care about an issue so much, let's put the power in young people's hands to start small changes. That's how Multicultural Youth NT, or My NT, was born. It's a youth-led organization that's been around for 12 years, and our purpose for existence is this, because we believe passionately that young people everywhere have skills, ideas, talents, that when harnessed properly and given the right platform, has every potential to make our community better. Now, the idea right, that young people everywhere have skills and talents, but some are born into situations that really restrict them, was brought home to us in a very dramatic way within like 2 years of Mitei's existence. When in an effort to disincentivize people taking the journey by boat to come to Australia, our government started planting immigration detention centres around Darwin. All of a sudden, in our city, we had young people and families detained, deprived of their liberties. Something that was strange to us. And as young leaders in INT, we wanted to get out there and at least visit them, give them some hope, take them out on excursions. And we tried, but we were not allowed. So what we did was we went out and shared this story to others, like students and young people in our communities. We went to schools and we asked young people, what message do you guys have for our community on this issue? And one of the messages that we had from a 10-year-old, and this 10-year-old just quoted the second verse of our national anthem, "For those who come across the seas with boundless plains to share." When these messages came out, slowly the Department of Immigration in Northern Territory began to listen to us, and we eventually were able to visit these detention centres. We were able to take these young people out on excursions to visit the beach for the first time in their lives. What we saw happening there was just random young people in the community standing up for true Australian values. Compassion for those in need. Fairness. These were manifested in the actions of young people. You know what? That was a few years ago, but I want to end with a story. A story of one of my clients. Mushgan came to Australia at the age of 17. She turned 18 on a boat. She fled horrendous sexual abuse in Iran. She had no protection of her government. She came to Australia fleeing that. At the time, our policies were that she would be detained briefly in an immigration detention centre and then released into the community while awaiting the processing of a visa. In those 2 years, Mushgan was embraced by ordinary Australians, by ordinary young people. She enrolled herself in school in Brisbane. She sought counselling, and she managed to overcome the issues that she was facing. She met Milad, a brilliant young man, also very in background, but who is a permanent resident of Australia. They got married. In year 11, she was detained back into the detention centre because the department would not believe that she suffered rape. Of course, she wasn't able to disclose what she suffered to strangers. And from detention centre, through the advocacy of her friends and teachers, she was able to go to school under armed guard every day. Come year 12, 3 months away from finishing year 12, out of the blue, she's moved without notice to Darwin, put in a detention centre in Darwin, and given the ultimatum, you either go back to your country voluntarily or you spend the rest of your life in detention. Her school erupted, her school community rallied around her, sent her letters which gave her hope, and through that support, eventually she was able to be released 2 years ago, but not before she finished year 12 from behind the fences. She came out on a bridging visa from detention, reunited with her husband, but every 6 months she faces the prospect of not having a visa renewed and going back into detention or to her country. She's an ordinary young person just like any of us. She's got skills, talents, could be a leader, but her opportunities to do that have been restricted because of the circumstances that she's born into. You and I are in a privileged position of being able to make good on these desires and make some changes. You guys have the freedom and the voice, use them. I want to leave you with a quote from former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, who had these words for us. When you see something that is wrong, no matter how big or small the problem is, think to yourselves, who else would like to change this? Work together with others who share your conviction. Have the courage to believe that you can make a difference. If something has not been done before, it does not mean that it cannot be done. It only means that you could be the first to do it. So have the courage to do it. You can make a change. Believe you can. Thank you.